The elephant in the room is that comedy is a very subjective thing. It's hard for a huge group of people to come together and find just one particular thing funny, and on top of that, being a genre that can be integrated into so many other types of shows. But I'll try here and give underappreciated anime that I find particularly to be a hoot. Scraping this list together was a bit difficult because there are so many comedy anime out there, and a good amount I've been wanting to watch for a while but haven't gotten around to yet, some of which include Space Dandy, D-Frag, School Rumble, Beelzebub, and Nishijo. So if you have your own comedy anime you'd like to recommend to others, I highly encourage you to leave a comment. Alright, let's just begin. One of the first anime that immediately comes to my mind when I think of underrated comedies is Servant X Service. As an office rom-com that is definitely heavy on the comedy, the anime follows the daily shenanigans of Lucy, who has just entered the civic workforce, and how she adjusts to her new workplace lifestyle. She becomes a civil servant to get revenge on the worker who allowed her full name to be approved, her full name being over 30 different names because her parents couldn't just decide on one thing, so they put all of it down. She struggles to adjust when she's surrounded by a dude who always just wants to slack off, a girl who is overly nervous about anything and everything, and a trainer who doesn't know how to train people despite being in the company for 8 years. There's also the added underwhelming satisfaction of the job itself and dealing with the clients that makes Lucy's new life hell. What will sell you on the show is how over the top and hilariously modern the running gags are and the witty banter the office cast have. From Lucy's determination to hide her page-long name to their boss being a dude who only communicates through a stuffed animal, the anime never stops with the jokes, and also progresses a lot of the characters both in their personal goals and romantically to keep it fresh the whole way through. Servant X Service is complete at 13 episodes and one of the easiest recommendations to anyone who loves a romantic comedy, but also just a comedy in general. The comedic showstopper that is Hinamatsuri did make waves in the anime scene, but was overshadowed by the crazy year 2018 had for comedies such as Love is Hard for an Otaku, Psyche's second season, and Grand Blue. Hinamatsuri opens with a child Esper falling down from the sky in a capsule and landing on a Yakuza, and if the girl Hina doesn't use her powers, she causes a random massive explosion. Our Yakuza Nita hesitantly takes her in and starts becoming her caretaker to avoid this from happening. But we meet a lot of the other colorful cast members involved with Hina in the process. I would say Hinamatsuri is like a wackier version of Spy X Family and Mob Psycho combined, and I also love how the holes that the characters dig themselves in only gets deeper and deeper as the show goes on. In particular, I found the characters of Anzu, a rival to Hina, and Hitomi, Hina's school classmate and friend, to be the best gags that the show has had. Gamers was a bit of a mixed bag for people. I think for those looking for something more serious in tone were fooled into expecting a more self-insert dialogue-y romance anime. For that, I suggest bottom tier character Tomozaki. Instead, we got a much more unserious comedy with romance not really taking the spotlight. And if you're into insane misunderstandings getting crazier and crazier, then this anime will have you hollering. Every single one of the characters continuously gets wrapped up in messy situations, all caused by misunderstanding to the point where it becomes completely nonsensical. And I'd say its mixed reception comes from people strongly feeling like that's annoying. I find misunderstandings incredibly infuriating in romances when everyone is already incredibly edgy, or if it adds nothing for me, but for gamers, I think it works so well because of the fact that the characters are very colorfully expressive in a very unserious way, and the relationships get so twisted as the show goes on that it even feels like it's parodying misunderstandings portrayals in other shows. It's the crux of what a lot of the anime's humor is built upon, and they take every situation and run with it. Hit or miss humor, but if it's a hit for you, then it's a home run. Combining the comedy styles of Bocchi the Rock and Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto, Handa-kun is a loose prequel to the Barakamon anime that is wildly different in both presentation and genre. Handa, who is widely worshipped in his high school, twists everyone's reverence towards him into thinking that they all hate him, so he lives with full-on paranoia and anxiety and tries to avoid everyone, not knowing that everything he does just makes everyone love him more. The anime is stacked with a lot of side characters that are all very fun to watch, but in the end, the only one that really matters here and the show stealer himself is Handa. It's not necessary to have seen Barakamon in order to watch Handa-kun, although I will say that having seen seen it beforehand does add another layer of enjoyment towards the show. The anime itself doesn't have too much character progression, so when the jokes started to wear off to me around the end, it did start to stagnate. But luckily, the last episode did surprise me in a good way, leaving me to still recommend Handa-kun if it sounds like it's up your alley. There are a number of villainous anime popping up these days, but hands down, without question, the funniest one as of now is Villainess Level 99. The completely airheaded villainous reincarnate Yumiya tries to survive her death flags by trying to have no interaction with the other Otome game characters whatsoever, and becoming ridiculously overpowered as a backup in case she has to run away. But her airheadedness is what derives a lot of the comedy here, as she continuously draws more attention to herself unknowingly, and its scenarios that it evolves to is what made me laugh multiple times throughout watching. I also really like how, despite not focusing on the Otome world's main heroine and capture targets, they were still woven in a relevant and comedic way, and how the other game characters in Yumiya's new world, Patrick and Eleonora, each had their own comedic moments as well. One minor flaw I did have though was that the final episode didn't satisfy me because of how rushed it got, but its initial setup and continuous momentum all throughout up until that last point still makes this villainous anime one of the best and funniest out there. Working's simple premise follows the day-to-day lives of everyone working in a Wagnaria branch diner, and all of the different workers' quirks and interactions with each other and the customers. It's kind of hard to fully dive into without ruining all of the running gags, but each of the characters definitely has a screw loose somewhere to varying degrees that makes every interaction hilarious to unfold. My favorite characters are the waitress Yamada and Popura, the manager, and the cooks Sato and Soma. Outside of just the normal cast on shift, there are a bunch of recurring characters that appear throughout that are also a delight to watch. And on top of a show that spans 3 seasons of pure delight, if you're a fan of Monthly Girls, Nozaki-kun, Blend S, or even the aforementioned Servant X service, you will for sure find enjoyment in working. But not in real life, only the anime. I've spoken about SKET Dance ad nauseum in a couple other recommendation videos that I made that you should also check out. But just real quick, I can't skip out on it here because SKET Dance is one of the most underrated comedy gems to exist in anime. Following the trio in the SKET Dan and the various antics their club gets involved in as they try to help out other clubs and students in their school, this longer anime spanning 77 episodes has a large number of characters and every single one of them has something to offer. And there was also surprisingly never a dull moment throughout, which is highly impressive for an anime this length. The sheer quantity of jokes they crack in every single one of the episodes, combined with the surprising emotional chords SKET Dance strikes at times, makes this a very easy anime to recommend to anybody, comedy or not. My sense of humor is not typically drawn to parodies, but I gave Magical Girl Ore a shot because of how ridiculous the premise sounded, and I don't regret it. There's a lot of out-of-whack elements at play with this anime. Saki, a 15-year-old wannabe idol, works as one half of the duo Magical Twins, with her other half being her best friend Sakuyo, but they both sound horrific. A thug enters Saki's house and reveals to Saki that her mom was actually a magical girl but is getting old, so they pass the torch to Saki to become a magical girl herself. But when she transforms, she's actually a buff dude. This doesn't even scratch the surface of the gags that come into the 12-episode anime, as they go all out with making fun of the magical girl formula on top of having their own ridiculous moments of their own. What made me laugh the hardest in this anime always involves the crazy love scenarios that Saki finds herself roped up in. And it only gets crazier when her guy form is integrated in as well. The complications in how every character views another is top tier, and while I do think it runs its course by the end of the show, the fact that the anime tells a complete story at 12 episodes makes this worth checking out. I would compare Clean Freak Aoyama-kun's humor to Marshall's. Despite the character's traits and setup being a bit different, its styles are pretty similar. The deadpan Aoyama is a prodigy at soccer, charming, good at cooking, and everything else, but his one falter is how much of a clean freak he is. He hates physical contact and getting dirty, so it's kind of ironic that he plays soccer. One thing I really liked about this anime is how while Aoyama is very stuck up in his cleanliness, he isn't afraid to break it occasionally when it counts for something. These moments are the best because it does add depth to a character that could have easily been very one-dimensional. One last thing to note is that Aoyama also has an insane fan club that follows him around, much like Handa-kun. I'm running out of different ways to describe how the ridiculousness of each of these shows contributes to its humor, but if you want a shiny and clean underrated gem, then give Clean Freak Aoyama-kun a try. Asobi Asobase begins with one of the most misleading opening theme segments ever, showcasing a slow-tempoed song with a more tranquil and pure tone, believing to the viewer that this is the tone that will be set throughout the show. It's not. One of the most out-of-pocket, unpredictable, deranged, and laugh-out-loud shows I have ever seen, period. The 12 episodes here are broken down into shorter segments that follow the trio of girls in the pastime club, which is essentially just a bunch of day-to-day hobbies and, as the name states, pastimes. Absolutely nothing is out of the question here, as this anime, which has a segment about playing kendama, switches to a segment about laser beams blasting through someone's asshole. The show is just bonkers, and it's one you truly need to experience for yourself if you haven't. Hands down, one of my favorite comedy anime in existence. Thank you so much for getting this far into the video. I've been covering some underrated anime in other genres, lengths, and demographics as well, and I have a number left that I want to go through before I want to start talking about underrated seasonal anime, some anime perspectives, and eventually just entertainment in general. Leave your own underrated comedy anime in the comments that I may have missed or not have seen yet. At the very least, I will read them and try to respond to everyone. See you next video, hopefully. Bye!